Mr. Speaker, thank you for this treasure space to make this closing remarks for and on behalf of my colleagues in the minority. I do so with a distinct honor and high privilege. Mr. Speaker, I precede my statement with a quote from President Theodore Roosevelt, delivered 23rd April 1910, in an address at the Sorbonne in Paris, titled Citizenship in a Republic during his post-presidential tour of Europe. Mr. Speaker, President Roosevelt reminded the world of one enduring truth. Quote, "It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by the dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, because there is no effort without error and shortcoming, but who does actually strive to do the deeds, who knows great enthusiasms, the great devotions, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat," end quote. So, Speaker, relying on these veritable words, I say to my colleagues in the minority side, let Roosevelt's words strengthen our resolve. We will be criticized, called names, and accused of opposing everything, but we must not retreat from our duty. We must continue to fight. Let's shoulder on, scrutinize and hold this government feet to the fire, because we were elected to defend the public interest, demand accountability, and speak for the people, even when doing so is difficult. Mr. Speaker, in the same light, the Clerk to Parliament, speaking at the launch of Parliament and You initiative on the 9th June 2026, offered a fitting reminder of the wider purpose of our work when he said, quote, "May today's constructive engagement and similar future endeavors secure for us and posterity the blessings of liberty, equality, opportunity, and prosperity." Mr. Speaker, end quote. These words should again guide us as minority as we bring this meeting to a close. Beyond our political differences, Parliament must remain a place where debate serves the public good and where our decisions protect the freedoms, opportunities, and future of the people we represent. Mr. Speaker and colleague members, there is a moment at the end of every meeting of this House when the noise settles and the only thing left is a record. Not the applause, not the headlines, the record. What we said, what we did, what we had the courage to name. So let me be honest with you today, colleagues, and through you, with the people of Ghana who sent us here. Not because it is easy, but because it is old. And let me be plain from the outset, Mr. Speaker, our republic, under this NDC administration, is not at all in safe hands. We see already incompetence at play, majority tyranny in this House, and a timid or malleable judiciary are together suffocating the fate of our citizens in democracy and pushing Ghana towards the precipice. That is the case this speech will make, point by point, before this House and before the nation. Speaker, but permit me to first acknowledge two important matters. One, a son of Anlo goes home today. Mr. Speaker, Let me speak of matters that are outside and above politics. As I've already said, James Victor Beho, diplomat, minister, member of parliament, a man who represented us at the United Nations and across our region with quiet dignity. We do not always agree in this chamber about everything we do as political leaders, but we can agree that he served his country well. Rest well, Dumega, Mawu Nayirao. Then again, Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the minority, I extend condolences to the people of Dagbon. And in this same season of loss, a word to our brothers and sisters in Dagbon, mourning the passing of their overlord, the Yana. When Dagbon grieves, Ghana grieves, because the Dagbon skin carries the memory of this whole nation. Today, in keeping with a tradition older than this republic, a regent was installed to hold Dagbon steady until final rites are performed and a new Yana takes the skin. To the chiefs, elders, and the people of Dagbon, the minority honor the dignity of this moment and hold you in our prayers. Speaker, let me now refer to the June disaster. Who will answer? There is a call. Now, Mr. Speaker, as I promised at the outset, there is no harder place to start than here. On June 29 this year, this country was hit by flood and fire. NADMO's own figures tell us at least 34 Ghanaians died and 6 went missing. 18 in the central region, my own home region. 12 in the greater Accra, the region that hosts this parliament. And 4 in Volta region, my paternal home region. Mr. Speaker, it is easy for numbers to become just numbers. They are citizens who did not come home. But silence is not an answer. It has been weeks, not a single official has stood before this country and simply said, I failed. I am responsible. I resign. There was a task force set up before the rains ever came, with time to prepare and a mandate to protect our people. We believe that if it had done its job, some of those 40 persons might still be with us today. Maybe not all, but some. So let us be clear about what we are asking for. Not a witch hunt, an answer. Every member of that task force must be hauled before the appropriate committee of this house and account in full for what they did. Ghanaians buried their dead in June. The least we owe them is the truth in July. Mr. Speaker, colleague members, this is not the only silence this government owes us an answer for. A state-owned helicopter fell from the sky, killing high-ranking state officials and army personnel. To this day, no one in this government has accepted responsibility. A routine recruitment exercise for the Ghana Armed Forces turned into carnage, killing at least 6 young women who had simply come seeking to serve their country. To this day, no one in this government has accepted responsibility. Mr. Speaker, 3 tragedies, 3 sets of graves, and not one word of ownership from this government. This house cannot allow this silence to stand. We insist as minority, without qualification, that both the helicopter crash and the death of those young women at the recruitment exercise be subjected to the same full parliamentary investigation we demand for the June floods. Not a quiet internal memo, not a press statement issued and forgotten. A proper inquiry of this house with power to summon, to question, and to publish. Mr. Speaker, now it is obvious that numbers do not add up. If this government cannot give us straight answers on matters of life and death, we shall not be surprised that it cannot give us straight numbers either. On the 23rd of July, the finance minister gave us mid-year budget review. A speech this house is asked to enter, word for word, into our official Hansard as a record for history. That is a serious honor. It should come with a serious duty to get the numbers right. It did not. Inflation for June was given as 5.7% in one breath and 5.3% in the next. Mr. Speaker, this minority is not alone in raising the alarm. Civil society has independently flagged the very same rot. Dr. Edu Owusu-Sarkodie, Executive Director of the Center for Policy Scrutiny, has publicly pointed out that total expenditure was quoted at one figure on page 25 of the budget document and a different figure entirely on page 26, against two different pending targets. He found the same pattern in our capital expenditure numbers. One figure on front page, on page 25, and another page 26. Mr. Speaker, when independent policy analysts and this minority are reading the very same document and arriving at the very same alarm, that is not partisan noise. That is a warning this government cannot explain away, because as Dr. Sarkodie rightly noted, these fiscal figures are, quote, the foundation upon which government policies are formulated, end quote. Speaker, a budget is not just arithmetic. It is a promise. When the numbers inside a promise cannot agree with each other, the promise itself starts to look like fiction. We therefore demand simply for the finance minister to return to this house and provide one set of figures told the same way from the first page to the last. Mr. Speaker, let me turn to the government one more time. It is failing on its own promises. Mr. Speaker, sloppy numbers on a page are one failure. Broken promises to the Ghanaian people are another. And this government has no shortage of those either. Every government is elected on its promises. That is the deal. Tonight, we ask plainly, where are those promises? Where is the Akukon Kitinkiti? We were told it was an investment. Now the Minister for Food and Agriculture himself tells us the beneficiaries are simply eating the chicken and sending videos of their feasts. You cannot hatch an economy from a bird that has already been eaten. Where are the nurses we trained? Where are the teachers we prepared? They sit at home, thousands of them, while the promise that gave them hope collects dust. Where is the fight against Galamsey, which we return to shortly? Where is the Women's Bank, still mostly an idea? Where is the end of family and friends? A promise broken in full view of the people who believed it. Where is the overhaul of our procurement system, when sole source contracts are still handed out like sweets, left and right, to whoever stands closest to power? That is not reform. That is the very rot this government told us it came to clean up. The minister responsible for public sector reforms has since been rendered redundant. Her office is unknown. Her work schedule not known. She has never been in any visibility. We don't know what she does. Where is the 24-hour economy? Where is the one job, 3 shifts? Where is the cost-free first-year university? Mr. Speaker, these are not our pillars. This government chose them, and this government promised them, and one by one, we are watching them fail miserably or collapse. Ghanaians did not vote for slogans. They did not vote for crass incompetence. They voted for delivery. Tonight, this government owes them an answer, not another speech, which will likely come from the deputy majority leader. Mr. Speaker, let me turn to the tribunal bill. Mr. Speaker, as if broken promises are not enough, the NDC government is now embarking on actions that have grave consequences on our justice system. For example, the enactment of a bill to create district and regional tribunal creates a lot of apprehension in sections of our society. Let us talk about the tribunals and start with what is true. Indeed, our constitution allows for them. Article 125 speaks of citizens taking part in justice through public tribunals. Article 142 and 143 speak of regional tribunals. This minority will not stand here and pretend otherwise. But here is what else is true. The same constitution allowed the president create a constitutional review committee chaired by the revered Professor H. Quincy Prempeh, a man of rare standing. That committee studied the very question of the tribunals. And in December last year, it reported to the president. Its advice was simple: expunge the tribunal system, replace it with ordinary courts. The president's own reviewers told him to close this door. Instead, his side in parliament forced it open at midnight on Friday, 16th of July, while most of Ghanaians slept. This minority refused to add our voice to that vote. We stood up. We walked out, so history would have no doubt where we stood. But, Mr. Speaker, we have walked this dangerous road before. In the 1980s, public tribunals and community tribunals were accused of grave human rights abuses. They earned a name, not a kind one: kangaroo courts. Professor Kwesi Janka has called this bill, quote, a revolutionary monster nicely cloaked in fugu democracy, end quote. Warning, it marks, quote, the return of terror, end quote. Those words should not leave this chamber unshaken. Yes, the bill has safeguards on paper, I agree. It requires panel members of high moral character. But it also says plainly that they, quote, may or may not be lawyers, end quote. That means a person with no legal training can sit in a judgment on serious cases of fraud, tax, and mining crime, shielded by immunity for whatever they decide on that bench. Power without training, wrapped in immunity, is not a small risk a country with our history should entertain. If today the Court of Appeal says High Court judges are making mistakes in applying the law, what will non-judges do when people are hauled before them? And by the way, Mr. Speaker, let not the NDC forget that in our history, some of the people who have led or supported the passage of controversial bills have ended up being victims of its own afterwards. So, standing firmly behind our flag bearer, Dr. Mahamudu Bawumia, we the minority say to President Mahama, do not sign this bill. Send it back. Listen, for once, to your own committee. A tribunal bill to be used against your opponent today can be turned on you tomorrow. Nobody wins that game. Only the law loses. Mr. Speaker, kindly permit me to place on record that we are aware of the government position paper on the proposed constitutional changes being canvassed by the administration following the work of the Prempeh Committee. This is a serious and delicate matter, which we will study thoroughly with our national party and respond to properly at another time. Mr. Speaker, let me now turn to the harassment of political opponents. We say to the NDC government, stop the harassment of the opposition. Mr. Speaker, a tribunal that can be turned on political opponents does not exist in isolation. It sits alongside a pattern this minority has watched grow all year. And we cannot leave this chamber this evening without naming it plainly. Members of the New Patriotic Party, including MPs from the minority, have been maliciously targeted and harassed simply for holding different views, using the investigative and prosecutorial powers of the state. We say without apology that this is both dangerous and wrong. A government that fears its critics has already told us something horrifying about itself. It is inflicting a new culture of silence on this nation. Mr. Speaker and colleagues, we also place on record a shocking string of doubtful judicial decisions that has emerged in recent times. Taken together, they appear to suggest that there is one set of justice for the friends and cronies of this government and another altogether set for its opponent. Ghana is bigger than any one party, and our democracy only works if the opposition can speak, organize, and challenge power without looking over its shoulders. And if every citizen, regardless of political color, can trust the same law applies to them all. Mr. Speaker, it is obvious that bail regime has been abused, and it's had no less a person that Haruna Idrisu, Minister of Education, going public about how bail is being weaponized in our country. The Minister of Interior also had the occasion in this very house to talk about how bail is being abused. Mr. Speaker, if this is coming from senior members of the government, then let me put on record that so far, bail has been used particularly by Yoko to target the MPP with all their so-called investigation and doubtful verdicts. It follows opponents into the courtroom itself through how a bail is granted or withheld. This concern is not new, and we return to it because the problem has not gone away. We have said before, and we return to it because the problem still persists. Again and again, that our bail regimes have been abused. Opposition figures have been kept behind bars, in all but name, through conditions no ordinary Ghanaian could meet. Even as our constitution promises them liberty and presumption of innocence. That is not bail, Mr. Speaker. That is unlawful punishment, wearing bail clothing. That time has come for this house to close the gap that makes this possible. Bail should protect liberty. It should never punish a person before they are even tried. Mr. Speaker, it is obvious flowing from the above that free speech is under threat. If the state can use bail to punish an opponent before trial, it should surprise no one that the same fear of criticism is manifesting itself in another horrifying ways. This government has taken steps that look unmistakably like an attempt to revive the old criminal libel law, the very law Kufuor-led MPP government asked this parliament to repeal back in 2001. Consequently, Mr. Speaker, this minority has filed a bill to amend Section 207 and 208 of Criminal Offences Act 1960. Mr. Speaker, our proposed private members' bill was ferried to your office, and we pray that upon our return in October or soon thereafter, the minority will have the opportunity to pursue this private members' bill on this House floor. We call on our colleagues in the majority not to stand in our way or think of today's pleasures and convenience and say no to the amendment, for it will be for their own good and for their own future interests. Mr. Speaker, the sections that still criminalize insult and so-called false news are those laws that we seek to amend. Those laws belong to an older, harder Ghana, not the Ghana we are building together. While we do not support irresponsible or reckless speech, we are of the firm conviction that no citizen should go to prison for mocking a leader or for getting a fact wrong. Those are matters our civil litigation should deal with. We ask our colleagues opposite again and again to join hands with us in this worthy endeavor. Mr. Speaker, let me set my eye on the broken promises of the NDC one more time. They promise a reset governance, but what we see, silencing citizens is one betrayer. But the biggest betrayer of all sits behind everything I have described tonight, and it goes by a single word this government campaign on: reset. They promise to fight corruption without fear and without favor. Ghanaians believed them and voted for that promise. So let us ask honestly what we got instead. We have watched the prosecutorial powers of this state become a shield for the well-connected and the sword-wielded against their opponents. Serious cases, once actively pursued against NDC loyalists and allies under the Nanadu government, have gone quiet or vanished altogether. Meanwhile, the same power has moved straightly against members of the New Patriotic Party to mount bogus and politically motivated trial. Mr. Speaker, nowhere is this clearer than in the questionable acquittal of Madam Sedinam Tamaklo of the NDC. Was justice blind in that case? Or did a party card open a door that stays shut for everyone else? We have seen a hurriedly written press statement suggesting the Attorney General intends to appeal the decision. The same Attorney General who did a terribly poor job in defending the interests of the Republic at the Court of Appeal? No, we do not have a shred of confidence in the current Attorney General and his deputy in this matter. A so-called reset, only reset in one direction, leading to the removal of a Chief Justice. It is recalibration of George Orwell's Animal Farm, wearing the language of reform. Mr. Speaker, the Galamsey menace, a tale of two standards. Nowhere is it that one directional reset clearer than in the fight or the absence of one against Galamsey. In March this year, President Mahama stood before organized labor at Jubilee House and he was candid. He said he does not, quote, kid, end quote, himself, that his own people are free of Galamsey, describing how illegal operators simply switch loyalty whenever new government arrives. That is the president's own account, not ours. It tells us he knows names, or at least he knows networks. Yet, as of today, the Attorney General has not even taken a statement from the president to learn who those people are. No investigation, no prosecution. Mr. Speaker, the courts, the progress and a warning we see. Now, Mr. Speaker, before I conclude, having spoken of double standard, let me be fair, because fairness matters even in a speech like this one. And not every recent judicial development has troubled us. We commend the Supreme Court for upholding the constitutionality of the Office of the Special Prosecutor. That office is a safeguard for this nation, and every attempt to weaken it by bill or by bogus petition dressed up as consent should stop. But we also have a warning that the same ruling upheld the Attorney General's power to enter nolle prosequi, and this government has a track record of using the very power to quietly end prosecution that began before January 2025. That power must never become a shield for the connected and a sword for the powerless. We will be watching as minority. Ghanaians are also watching. It is obvious that computerized allocation system has been suspended in our courts. In its place, 3 judges have been assigned to handle cases of MPP members. What happened to the need for justice to be blind? And now, even as court go on vacation, some judges have been given special certificates to speed up trials of NPP members. What happened? What happened, therefore? Mr. Speaker, what our current justice delivery system has forgotten is that lawyers are entitled to their vacation, just as judges are entitled to their vacation. And clients, accused persons, litigants are required to freely choose their lawyers. What is the justice delivery system telling all of us? This comes after various NDC officials have been freed or given nolle prosequi, filed to ensure they do not open their defense in court. It is now one system of justice for NDC members and a different one for non-NDC members. Mr. Speaker, in a matter of the Supreme Court ruling, abolishing the one man, one vote for presidential primaries, Mr. Speaker, by way of the delegate system, the party to which the minority caucus belongs has stated its position clearly. At our last conference in Lagos, the party decided to eventually open up to the one man, one vote, starting with 40% expansion in the delegate system. This new decision is a call on us to fast-track the process, and we will. Mr. Speaker, let me take this opportunity to say that I have covered a great deal of ground tonight, and before I take my seat, let me say what should always be said, regardless of how difficult a meeting has been. Thank you, and to your deputies for presiding over this House through this meeting. Your first Deputy Speaker has had difficult times, but in all of it, he managed to steer the affairs of this House. Mr. Speaker, we call upon the first Deputy Speaker to do more to embrace all of us, particularly we the minority. I want to say a big thank you to my colleagues, particularly those in leadership, on every side of this chamber, for showing up and doing your work. Mr. Speaker, let me, for emphasis, say to the young MPs, the first-timers, often called the backbenchers, I have observed the industry of many of you. Keep it up. Keep reading the rules. Commit to parliamentary work. You are writing your own history. Don't give up. You will see frustration. You will be intimidated, sometimes by your seniors, but it is part of the game. To my colleagues, the mighty minority, thank you for your dedication. And to the parliamentary service staff, led by Mr. Ebenezer Homa Jetro, I say to you, thank you. Table office, thank you for your hard work, making it possible for us to undertake our work in this chamber. For all those who assist parliamentary service staff, on behalf of the Minority Caucus, I say a big thank you to you. And to the press, who carry our words from this chamber to the doorstep of every Ghanaian. A free press is not a convenience. It is the lifeblood of everything we are trying to build. I say to you, the press, thank you very much. We, the mighty minority, are grateful to you. Mr. Speaker, colleague members, as we rise Sine, I want to leave you with this. We stood for the dead in June, we the minority, not you anyway. We stood against tribunal built for revenge, not you. You betrayed the people of Ghana. We stood for free speech and free press, not you. We stood against Galamsey, not you. Wherever it hides, and for our courts that hold every Ghanaian to the same standard, including the government of the day. Mr. Speaker, when we weigh all of this together, one picture emerges. And it is the same picture I named when I rose to speak tonight. Executive incompetence, because this government has failed on almost every measure that matters to the ordinary Ghanaian. On the economy, on its own promises, on protecting our people from disaster, on delivering the reset it promised us. The majority tyranny in this House, because a tribunal bill its own reviewers warned against was forced through at midnight, and dissenting voices have been met with harassment rather than argument, and the judiciary too often timid or malleable, because the same law appears to move at different speeds for different Ghanaians, depending on whose side they are on. Yet on one thing, and one thing only, this government has shown real creativity and real discipline, finding ever more inventive ways to shield family members, friends, and cronies associated with it from long arm of the law. That is not governance. That is self-preservation, dressed up as leadership. But let this government hear us clearly. No matter how long it takes, the day of accountability will come. And that day will be after the 2028 elections. Mr. Speaker, that is precisely why we did what we did in this meeting. Mr. Speaker, we did not do this because it was easy. We did it because Ghana is watching and history is watching. And one day, someone will ask what this parliament did in this season when it mattered. Let the record show that we, the mighty minority, told the truth. When we return to this chamber, we will still be here, still asking, still holding this government to account until every one of these matters is resolved. Again and again, Mr. Speaker, as I resume my seat, Let me remind the NDC and its tyrannic majority in this chamber that their day of reckoning will soon come. 2028, they will lose the election, and come 2029, they will be held to account. Mr. Speaker, we have no doubt on our minds that today you see us as mighty few. Tomorrow, we are going to be the majority, whether you like it or not. Thank you very much, Mr. Speaker.